All right, now to your top story, the Capitol turmoil. Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax is still facing widespread calls to step down after two women have accused him of sexual assault.
And the first allegation was from Dr. Vanessa Tyson. She says that he forced her to perform oral sex during the 2004 Democratic National Convention. And then on Friday, Meredith Watson said that Fairfax raped her as a student at Duke University. Now, Fairfax denies the claims, but many are demanding he step down. Over the weekend, Virginia Delegate Patrick Hope threatened to impeach Fairfax. Well, this morning, he appeared to back down.
13 News Now reporter Stephen Graves is live at the state capitol with the latest. Stephen, what's going on there today?
Well, like you said, that call from Delegate Hope to rescind that impeachment action came early this morning before really any proceedings here. So he wrote, quote, "The purpose of doing this is for additional time so that we can find the best process to investigate these crimes." He says he is, though, renewing his call for Fairfax to resign, but that he has received enormous amount of thoughtful feedback. So we were, of course, curious about what that feedback was. As state delegates and senators were walking in today in caucus, we stopped some people, asked them questions about that. They seem to be on the same page of wanting an investigation to happen. We talked to the leader of the Virginia Legislative Black Caucus, Delegate Lamont Bagby. This is what he had to say.
Solution. I think we just need to make sure we look at every opportunity to get an investigation. I think that's what everyone wants. I think that's what the accusers want and the accused want, is to make sure that we look at the proper avenue to get an investigation. I think that's what everyone needs. That's what the Commonwealth deserves, and that's what the accusers deserve.
And the objections.
And so it seems like everyone's on the same page that these allegations need to be taken seriously. The caucus has asked for Fairfax to resign. He says he is staying in place for now. We're getting reaction continuously throughout the day, and we'll bring you the latest starting on 13 News Now at 4. That's the latest right now, though. Stephen Graves, 13 News Now.